Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Translation Differences in Genshin Impact. This week, as I mentioned last week, we are going to be talking about Chongyun. Chongyun's name actually has a cool meaning. It means layered clouds, quite possibly a reason why he has a cryovision, but we get more into that later. So let's get started.
My name is Chongyun. My family has practiced the art of exorcism in Liyue for many generations. Fate has been generous in allowing my path to cross with that of your distinguished self. Oh, no, my services are free of charge.
我名重云，家族久居璃月，世代以驱邪除魔为业。今日萍水相逢，看来我与阁下有些缘分。不收钱的，不收钱。
So even though Chongyun isn't as focused on wuxia lore and literature as Xingqiu was in terms of being very direct about the inspiration he's been drawing from, he does use a similar lexicon for some of his lines. In this one, you can hear him say again, 阁下. If you watched last week's or a couple of weeks ago when I talked about Xingqiu, Xingqiu uses 阁下 to talk about 北斗. So over here, Chongyun is using 阁下 to refer to you as an honorific. Another thing I want to talk about here is the definition of 缘分. 缘分, a lot of people like to say fate. I disagree with that translation. Fate implies something that you cannot change. 缘分 is, in fact, something you can change. 缘分 is better described as opportunity or chance. So specifically in the Mandarin line, 与阁下 with you 有些缘分, we have a little bit of 缘分, which means that we have the chance to meet. Whether or not our relationship develops into something deeper, that's something that's yet to be seen. It's not necessarily already predetermined to be a certain type of relationship. And it's not necessarily just a specific thing. It's very commonly used in normal colloquial speak too. So, for example, a lot of people, when they exit relationships, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, 我们俩没有缘分." Like we didn't have the 缘分. And if people are pulling for a specific card and they don't get it, they will say, "Ah, 看来我们是没有缘分的." Like we don't have that 缘分. So I hope everyone has 缘分 with the characters they want to pull.
Exorcism uses thaumaturgy and martial arts to conquer evil. There are other means to the same end, but they are not the true way.
方士驱邪依靠咒术，二赖武艺，另辟蹊径亦可，但终非正道。
In terms of the art of exorcism, I guess they're sticking along with their guidelines of using like Greek or Latin roots for spells, but really 咒术 is just spells. And this part misses a little bit of the order that he relies on things. When he says 依靠咒术,二赖武艺 is first you rely on your spells, then you rely on your martial arts. All right, and the last part where he talks about not the true way, that's a incorrect translation in my opinion. What he means when you say 正道 is, I guess, like the proper way or like the quote unquote good way, because 正道 is usually like the good guys in some story writing, and there's like 邪道, which is like the evil guys, or like 歪道, like the off the beaten path ways. So the infamous book that I often reference to, 魔道祖师, 魔道 is like demonic way or like evil way sometimes. So you over here, Chongyun is saying, yeah, you can find other ways to exercise things, but that's not the quote unquote correct way.
The conqueror of demons himself has defended Liyue side by side with we exorcists for generations. Day after day, night after night. I have the utmost respect for Adeptus Xiao. It's just, why must he be so disparaging towards us? He says our repertoire is lacking and our power is trivial. I'm sorry, but I just can't accept that.
降魔大圣和我们方士一派，一暗一明，共守璃月，历史已久。我非常尊敬萧上仙， 但是那位大人居然说什么驱邪方式量小力微，不值一提。我绝对不能苟同。
There's a specific part in this about Shaolan that's completely wrong. They say side by side, day after day, night after night. That's incorrect. What he says when he means yi ming, yi an is one in the light and one in the dark. So the exorcists are known to the people of the Yue to go and banish the demons. Xiao, on the other hand, operates in the shadows. No one really knows about him. He just does it. So that's the difference between Xiao and how he helps people by exorcising demons, and then how the exorcists do it.
She looks like a zombie, but as an exorcist, I feel there's something different about her. Her name is also absent from all the praised names I've seen. Where exactly does she fit in among the deities?
看起来是个僵尸小姑娘，但作为方式，我能察觉到，她可不一般。名字也不见报告之中，究竟是哪尊呢？
So this line about Qiqi, I think it's adding a little bit more layers to Qiqi as well. Chongyun references a baogao here. A baogao is really a book for Taoists when they use to reference what they believe to be words from their deities, so a holy book of theirs, if you will. And so he's referencing this Bao Gao, and he can't find Qiqi's name. So she's not exactly a jiangsi, or rough translation, zombie, or a deity. So we're still not really sure where Qiqi belongs in this whole religious pantheon existence thing.
Discipline is everything. Unbridled passion can have disastrous consequences. Trust me, I would know. Oh, no, not from personal experience, of course. I'm just stating my observations from what I've seen in my travels around Liu.
本事很重要，不然空有热血，只会坏事。对于这一点，我深有体会。啊，倒不是我自己的体会，是今年行走离月，观看人间百态的感悟。
I don't know where they got discipline from 本事. 本事 means to have the ability to do something. Like, for example, a phrase that you might hear in Kung Fu cinema and martial arts dramas is 有本事就来拿. If you have the ability, then come and get it.
I was born with a pure yang spirit, meaning I have too much yang energy. Apparently, it's so rare it only happens once every 1,000 generations or so. It means I repel all evil for miles around. Actually, that's a bad thing. I must be the only exorcist in history who can't get within 10 miles of an evil spirit.
我天生是纯阳之体，据说千年难遇，所有鬼怪对我退避三舍。唉，这其实一点都不好，哪有见不着鬼怪的驱邪方式？
So this part right here, we learn a little bit more about his pure yang body. For those of you who aren't really familiar with Taoism and some of the precepts and a lot of other cultural stuff, yin and yang are like the balance of basically a lot of things. The belief is that for every force, there's a counterforce. Makes sense, right? So having a unbalanced yin or yang can cause a lot of problems, like for Chongyun. So yang is generally referencing to things that have warmth, the heat. Taiyang, the sun, right? The living. And yin obviously is everything the opposite of that. So cold, dark, things like that. The moon, the night, nighttime and stuff like that. And so evil spirits belong to the yin. Sometimes you'll hear this as yin jie, the underworld or the afterlife world. And because Chongyun is always full of yang energy, they don't like it. And that's exactly why they run away.
One of the main consequences of having a pure yang spirit is excess passion. Something which has gotten me into many embarrassing situations. In an effort to counteract my yang energy, I have to abstain from eating chilies and all hot food. I also have to take a parasol with me everywhere, and I avoid listening to rousing music. I wonder, will I ever find a way to work around my condition?
纯阳之体常常导致热血太盛，没少害我出糗。我不识辛辣高温，出门撑伞，回避激荡的音律，就是为了克制它。唉，什么时候这体质才能不妨碍我呢？
And this leads to his part three, why he can't have spicy food, why he can't get too worked up, and why he can't listen to rousing music, why he can't stay under the sun for too long, because he already has so much heat in his body. He has to balance that out by eating cool things and remaining calm, things like that. And by that logic, I think this is why he has a cryovision, because cryo is cold and generally related with yin, and so the cryovision is there to help him balance out his pure yang body. This one we kind of get into a little bit more like of the cultivation things that people may have read in Xinxia novels. 灵气 is spiritual energy, so it's not really using to purify his own spirit. He's just saying, hey, sometimes these things that we use to do exorcisms, I didn't know I can also use it to increase my own spiritual energy. And anecdotally, in Taoist belief that everything has Ling Qi in this world. There's energy in all sorts of things, and that's why when we talk about the adepti in this game, some of them may have been an animal beforehand, or maybe even some of them were a plant beforehand. But the longer they live, the more energy they gather, and eventually they can develop a higher level of sentience. And that's the whole purpose of cultivation and stuff like that, is to gather all this energy to attain a higher level of existence or to ascend to another plane. Ooh, I want to talk about this last line over here because I definitely hear it a lot in a lot of drama shows, things like that. 赴汤蹈火在所不辞 means I will jump into boiling water or run through fire and I will not say no. For someone to say that to you, it means that they are willing to do whatever you tell them to do. So keep that in mind when you see or when you're watching shows and you hear people say that. Is normally when someone says this, they kind of mean it, and probably the writers are going to write them off the show. So my last video, some people got kind of upset about quote unquote me making assumptions about a character's sexuality. For the most part, I go straight by whatever's in the primary source. In other words, what is either in the game or what is in the official streams. I don't rely too much on any other sources to draw on theories. So if I am going to do a completely very stretched fan theory, I will say so. But before that, I want to touch on a dev stream that they did. This one is called the Yueya Ji. It's one of those like fun kind of like game developer like just chatty kind of things where they kind of play games with each other and stuff like that. So this one they invited Zhongli's voice actor and Xiao and Chongyun's voice actor. And this little segment is called If You Were Yan Wang Dijun. So if you were Rex Lapis, then dot dot dot. And they have a person who submits a letter that Xiao's voice actor reads. It is from a quote unquote common Liyue citizen who has written the book Legend of Sword, who then learns that his path of Xia, or the meaning of Xia, is not only just having a strong passion for doing what is right in martial arts, but sometimes requires singing. And the last time he sang a song for his friend's birthday that was filled with well wishes, it accidentally set off his pure young body, so that each time thereafter, when he would sing, his friend would always get a nosebleed. So the writer of the letter says, well, since Yan Wang Dijun is so skilled, maybe they know a thing or two about singing. And if Dijun would be willing to teach me, the Fei Yun Commerce Guild would love to increase their contribution to the contract. So maybe the person who wrote The Legend of Sword, who has a friend who has a pure young body, maybe they just have a very strong emotional connection. I don't know. What do you think? And with that, I am going to start my really, really, really stretched fan theory where I see some really close parallels to something. Here we go. Chongyun wears white, has light blue hair, and and has to maintain a certain level of emotional control, cannot eat spicy food, and trains a lot. And if he accidentally does eat spicy food or lets himself lose his discipline around his pure young body, he does things that are very out of character and then kind of forgets or doesn't realize what he's doing. He also happens to have a really good friend who is somewhat of a genius, the second son of a very wealthy family. His friend also loves to prank him and only him, and even though Chongyun gets pranked all the time by this friend, he doesn't really mind, he just kind of keeps going along with it. I'm not saying that this is a direct inspiration. I'm just saying that there are a lot of similarities between Chongyun and Xingqiu and Nan Wangji and Wei Wuxian. And there you have it for my ridiculous parallel line drawing to some other fandom. Anyways, thank you so much again for watching my videos. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I will see you all next week where we wrap up Chongyun's combat lines.